What's going on, everybody? LK here, and today a little bit more Guilty Gear Strive for you guys. I wanted to talk about bad advice that people give in this game. So it's a new game. Not only is it straight up a new Guilty Gear, but some of the legacy knowledge that, you know, if you played previous versions, they might not necessarily carry over to this game. So there are some things that people say about the game in general and fighting certain characters that even if it like technically does help, it's not like the way people say it is not the best way. So I want to clear up some of this a little bit. This is clearing up some bad advice that people give about this game. Okay, cool. So number one is actually something of verse May that people say all the time, and like it actually tilts me that people say this so much. So this is actually about Dolphin, and it's how people say that you should 6p the Dolphin. So you should do a forward punch to the Dolphin. So if you don't know, in Guilty Gear, basically every character has a move. It's forward and punch, 6p. For the most part, it's upper body invincible. So it's going to vary by the character how the invincibility works. But basically everyone's 6p is the same in that regard. So a lot of people are like, if May is doing a bunch of Dolphin spam, you should 6p it. So I have May doing Dolphin into Dolphin. A little slow, but... and it does work. So this one is an interesting one because it does work. But there's a couple of reasons why I don't recommend actually 6ping the Dolphin. So the main one comes from the actual properties of the move itself. So yes, the 6p is invincible above the waist, but the main issue is that the total duration of the move is pretty long. So all May has to do literally is wait a little bit, and then she can call out your 6p. So in this example here that I just did, May hit me because she waited a sec and then did it. So doing the 6p is actually like a pretty high commit, I like to call it. So like when you do that move, you can't really do anything, and then when you hit them, you don't get a big return unless you have meter. So what should you do instead? My recommendation, I've talked about in a couple other videos, is to do jabs. So either like a standing punch or a standing kick. It can vary by your character, but the main reason why I recommend using these short duration moves is that if May delays for some reason, it's way less likely she's going to hit you than if you do like 6p or something. And for the most part, you could generally do a combo if it hits. So I'm gonna wait a little bit on purpose. So like Milia has a Gatling that's 5p 6h, where that lets her get to combo. It's gonna depend on your character what you get in this situation, but whether it's 5p or, you know, your standing P, or 5k, your standing K, you will probably get something better than doing 6p in this version of the game, at least. So Leo is going to be another one. So Leo has this. So what move is this? This is his cross up. He had this in Exert as well. It's a pretty fast move. If he hits you, he knocks you down. He gets to immediately set up mix up and back turn. So it's really, really not good to get hit by this. So the main thing that people say about this move is to throw it. Now there's a couple issues with throwing it actually. So one is it's actually going to be the range. So like there's some ranges where you'll have to hit him sooner rather than later. So you have to throw him a little bit faster depending on the range. So that's like one thing. So there'll be times where you feel like you went for the throw successfully and you may or may not get it. It could be kind of tough. Now, another thing comes from how the game itself actually works. So, this game, compared to previous versions of Guilty Gear, you have more options as far as delay cancels. So, if you're only looking for the cross-up, he can take turns that he's not normally going to be able to take. So, in this example, I had like this, but he could also do like something like this if he varies his delay cancels a little bit. So you don't want to get hyper focused on only trying to throw the cross up because he has a lot of other options he could do. What's my personal recommendation? So it's going to be a couple things. So one is to keep in mind what normals he's using to special cancel to. So for example, like a normal like far slash, he doesn't have a lot of options after it. He's like far slash 5h, far slash 6h, far slash 2h. So after forward slash, it's actually not a bad idea to look for the cross up, but as opposed to looking for after moves like close slash, where he has a lot of options, or 2S, where A normal character might not have a lot of options with 2S, but he does because he can go back and forth. So he can do this as an example. So my personal recommendation, look for the cross up at places where he doesn't have a lot of options. When he does do a move that has a lot of options off it, like his 2S, definitely try to consider using FD. And try to see what your opponent likes to do, because he has a lot of options there. So there's just like a kind of tough spot. Like that's something you just have to deal with. So next is Giovanna. So this is one I hear all the time, and it's again another example of, it's not a bad piece of advice, but it's just like way too simple. So Giovanna is a character that has a lot of plus frames, and a bunch of her special moves are plus as well. This is plus, and this is plus. So a really common thing you'll hear people say is to do 6P against a special move on reaction. So something like this. Let's do it in the corner. So something like this, you know. Now there's a couple of issues with this. So one, she has a move that's straight up plus that she has a ton of options off of, which is her close slash. So if you're sitting there trying to look for this and this, she's going to be doing a lot more of this and walking up. Another issue that she has too is that a lot of her normals are extremely safe on block. She's kind of like Soul in this regard, where like her 5H is like -5, her sweep is like -3. So if you're sitting there just waiting for special moves, she's going to be taking turns again on normals that she might not be able to do otherwise, because you're trying so hard to hit her special moves like her 214S or 236K. So my personal recommendation is when she goes to the end of her Gatling string, so generally like things like her 5H and her sweep, FD that normal or super jump afterwards. So both her 214S and her 236K have some startup. So even though they're plus, they have a little bit of a delay. Directly challenging it is all well and good, and if you hit it, you do get a knockdown generally. So that's really good. You don't necessarily know if she's gonna go into it, and her normals are really safe. So if you pick super jump in these spots, these normals won't be able to reach you. So she'll have to use other ways to extend her offense. She has a lot of ways of making herself advantageous. Again, like this is plus, this is plus, this is plus, and she has a lot of safe frame data. But if you use this, she will have to overextend a little bit to try to catch you, to try to make you feel like that, oh, I can't just jump out of this, or I can't just FD this. Then that lets you go back to mashing 6P when you think she's going to try to use her special moves that are plus. So it's kind of like a circling guessing game. Okay, so next is Chipp, and what it is for sure is people who tell you to just 6P this. So one, they are technically correct. You can just 6P this and you will win. But there's actually a lot more to this move than just 6Ping it. So I feel like you have to like break this down in a bunch of ways. So one is that this move advances. So if you do 6P, depending on like how you do it, you might end up like walking around the corner in this case, like I did right here. The actual strategies that I like to use against this move, so one, I have him doing super jump into it twice, right? If you FD this, he gets pushed out really far. In this example, in this recording, right? When I get hit here, it's a full combo. If you FD this, his 2K will miss. So this is like basically like the safest exit you have against this move. The main thing that they'll use after will not reach you if you FD it. So another thing you do is that if you have the type of move where you have something that reaches up here and you trade, and my Axel players will definitely know what this is. On trade, you get a combo. This one is really big. The attack level is low. This is something I want to talk about in a future video about the attack level system, but the attack level of this move is not high. So if you trade with your anti-air, you will always get a combo. That's like a really big one. Another thing you can do is that you can walk under it. So even if he's running this like really hard on you, you can try to like slip under, especially if he's doing it multiple times. Now in neutral straight up, so you have to pay attention. He always goes forward. When you do moves in this game, you can hit the landing. So you can aim for hitting the landing recovery straight up. You can meet him halfway like this. It doesn't hit horizontally as well. And you can try to run under too, but this one's actually kind of tough because the hitbox is bigger horizontally than it used to be. The main thing I want to get across though is like, it's not as simple as just 6Ping. Similarly to the Mei thing, there's other responses you can do that have more returns / will protect you better from him than 6P. So make sure you explore with your character and see what you can do. So last is Ino. This character is pretty polarizing. She's not super common. You might be like, man, like, okay, Leo, Chipp, Mei, like I get it. Like, why Ino for the last one? While she might not be like the absolute best character, like Ino games tend to swing like heavy. So you want to make sure you keep control of the game against her and don't let her make things go out of control. And the big thing that people say about Ino is that you can grab H stroke. So this move is +3 on block, so if she makes you block it, she gets a good advantage. So it is definitely good to throw this move, but similar to Leo's cross up, you have to basically sit there and wait for the move to do it. So I don't necessarily recommend just sitting there and waiting for the move. Similarly to Leo, you want to look for stroke at spots where she doesn't have a lot of options. So specifically in her case, I would say like after moves like 6H, for example, where she doesn't have a lot. She basically could only special cancel after it. So this is a really good place to look for it. Because there's not that much she could do. She could either just let it recover. She could do S stroke, which is -6. So depending on your character, you might be able to punish it, or at least like discourage her from doing other stuff. And then if she does H stroke, you can throw it. Of some of her other options, you might not want to look for it so much. Also, it's not such a fast move, so you can consider jumping, backdashing, etc. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. So I play this game a lot, I stream it a lot, and I chill in other people's streams of all different skill levels. So I've seen a bunch of just do this versus each character, and definitely that's not a thing in Guilty Gear. It's not that easy. Hopefully though, these pieces of advice helped. So the big thing I was trying to go for is taking like really vague generic advice that like honestly it's not bad advice, but it only takes like a little tweak to make you be like, man, like this thing that everyone tells me to do doesn't work. Am I bad? Or like, do I just don't get it? Or like what? So hopefully it's put this a little bit more into perspective and helps you build strategy against the rest of the characters in the game. As usual, if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Like and subscribe if you guys feel like it, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.